Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lunch Break. Today we are joined by the fantastic, awesome, and amazing Marshall Simmonds from Define Media Group. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I'm in the city. I'm having this fantastic lunch, and Norris didn't fix it, but I'm still. That's next time.
Make a second appearance for the fixing.
And of course, we have Norris Rowley, our manager of market research and analytics.
Let's take out my hat.
He might be out of the frame right now. Should come on back in. It's okay.
All right. So today we're eating sandwiches from Lenny's. What'd you have?
I had the vegetarian with avocado and pickles.
And I had a turkey cheese concoction as usual, and some Doritos. And some mac and cheese. It's pretty cool. Lenny'sNYC.com, not sponsoring us, but the food is pretty good. So how are you today?
I'm well. I saw the Packers get whipped up on last night by the Giants, and I enjoyed that, and I absolutely froze. And I'm good with cold. New York cold is unlike any other place in this world.
So I'm pretty sure the Packers are Rand and Geraldine's team.
Yeah, I didn't tweet him anything last night, although I should. I missed an opportunity.
Well, I don't like the Giants too much because I'm an Eagles fan, so...
I didn't know that.
I'm from Philadelphia, sir.
Yeah, but I didn't know you were... So wait a second. Hold on. Cut. So... What did you think of, okay, who's your favorite quarterback from Philly?
Ever?
Yeah.
Thank you. Clearly.
Really still sell his jersey at the
Of course.
Right?
Why wouldn't they?
I didn't realize. So fast forward, rewind back to 1980. We were watching the Super Bowl. I'm 9 years old, and we're in Boise, Idaho. And I'm watching Oakland play Philly. Yeah, you know Jaws and Harold Carmichael and Wilbert Montgomery and all those greats. And they're playing, and I'm looking, and I'm like, you know what? I think I like Philadelphia's jersey better. And that was born 30 years of heartache. And
wow,
that's what it's been.
Following a team this long, and now we're in the trough that we're in right now with them. Sorry, we're going off tangent, but I'm a Philly fan till the end. So
there it is.
I'm a Jets fan, so I have nothing to say.
Well, we're the better green, by the way.
I love you, Jets.
All right, some of these questions.
Okay.
We got a lot of questions today, actually. People really want to know what you know.
You made all this up in backstage.
I actually did not.
I was writing them up.
Okay.
Okay, so for sites like New York Times, what kind of off-page work needs to be done when there's so many other sites linking to you, being that you're like a PR9?
Yeah, so with enterprise level sites, it's a misnomer that you can do anything and that it works and that it plays well online. It doesn't work that way. The process that it takes to produce a package of content, that in and of itself is pretty challenging. And there's a lot of moving parts. It's a 160-year-old company. There's a lot of procedure that has moved, that's in place at the times, that still is in place. And so trying to get something accomplished, either whether it's a technical fix or it's something in production or it's a new package, it's pretty challenging. I can't tell you how many times I was called in, the day before a new package was launching to be told that it was done in Flash, for example. It happened all the time.
I can relate to that.
Not a lot of communication breakdowns. Interdepartmental communication was one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with at the enterprise level, especially with the New York Times. So while it may seem, okay, yes, it goes out live, the world links to it, it doesn't mean that it's search friendly. It doesn't mean that it's set up for success. And so coming out of the gate, that was what our project was, is to get as upstream as possible into the process. That was hard. It took about 5 years.
So that leads perfectly into my next question. What are some tips to get various departments that can help SEO to start thinking of how they can impact visibility?
Yeah, I would say physical location, first off, and that's kind of ironic coming from somebody who works whose company is a distributed workforce. But we're very good. We're hyper-communicative in that respect, and we were talking about that before. I've seen newsrooms and editorial teams that work best when they're with each other and they're literally sitting in the same room. And the Times has done a decent job just 4 blocks from here, but they could do a better job. And there are editorial teams that could do a better job by either sitting with the inbound, the marketing, the SEO group, and not in the way that necessarily designates them as they're the SEO person, send it down the line, let them apply their bolt on their piece of it to this content package before it goes live. It can't be like that. It needs to be integrated, and there needs to be communication happening at every level, not just at the end result. In the procedure. So I would say that I'm being a little vague to the answer, but that's literally what I see is so important with editorial groups is physical location first off.
Well, okay, so I have a lot of experience working with enterprise, as well, and working in big agencies. One of the things that I found to be the biggest issue is that there's so many people in the room with big egos. So, like, how do you navigate that, like, specifically?
I mean, I have yet to find a company with a bigger ego than the New York Times.
Fair
and
enough.
I think that that's to their credit, because that's what's made them successful. It was also one of the biggest challenges when we started working there in 2005 is they think because they produce it that they should be successful because of who they are. And there's no doubt that it's extremely challenging. But there's nothing that knocks somebody down more or quicker than a little bit of data to show that. Sure. Meanwhile, if you go out there and Search Metrics did a great bit of reporting on this, and they do some very good analysis. Is you look at what Rel Author is doing out there right now and who's taking advantage of Rel Author. It's not a lot of the big companies.
Right.
We're trying. Don't get me wrong. We're trying to get Rel Author integrated, but you have to set up a lot. That's a lot of G+ pages to set up. But those that are using it, if you look at their chart, you look at these names, you have no idea who those people are, but they're getting a lot of clicks and they have a lot of discoverability because they've done it and they got in early. And that kind of data produced or given to somebody who has that kind of ego to show that you may be doing this, but guess what? Billy Bob's tech site is kicking your butt because they've integrated and they've executed faster than you have.
Shout out to Billy Bob.
I own that site. You can buy it. I own that. I'm squatting on that domain. Billy Bob's tech site. Yours for your price.
So somehow you just keep leading into my next question perfectly rather. What are the different ways and metrics you might present to different departments to get buy-in for a project?
If you don't segment data, it's the sandwiches. Segment data appropriately, people aren't even going to open the email. Editorial teams, they need, with all due respect, they want to see graphics, pretty graphics that show arrows up, down, success, failure. Failure is a very good motivator too, and I don't shy away from giving teams failure showing teams failure if they've accomplished that. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But if they have achieved failure, that's a really good motivator. It's also it's a great data point. I just wrote an article about that at Search Engine Land that we like failure because it's just yet another data point along the way of learning about a particular topic or demographic, etc. But upper management needs everything. They need that spreadsheet to open. Some folks in the company don't need a spreadsheet. They just need the graphics to show what has worked and what hasn't. Because again, it gives credit to people who've earned it, and it also can be a stick for those who haven't. All right.
Fair enough. Okay, now to go completely left with this. What's your favorite A Tribe Called Quest song?
That's not bugging out.
That's my question. That's the wrong answer. Wrong answer. My question is the wrong answer. It's called Electric Nexation. That's the best Tribe Quest song. It's the only one ever created. And ever. That's the only one I listen to.
It's one of my favorites. I don't know if it's the best.
It's the best.
I definitely say that's the best album though.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So
here's the thing about bugging out is that bass line that leads in. I don't care who you are. You'll start bouncing in the room, whether you know it or not. And look, if it plays well in Bend, Oregon, and I played it in Bend, Oregon, people will start bouncing. They're like, yeah, who is this? But the Tribe Called Quest is incredible. But I'm just thankful that somebody exposed them to me. Shout out to Matthew Brown and shout out to Jake Olson, who exposed me to them when it was happening because I never would have known.
Matthew Brown's the man. We chop it up about hip hop a lot. I actually saw him a week or so ago in LA. Yeah, he's a good guy. I like that guy. You guys used to work together?
I went to college with him.
Really?
Yeah, we've known each other for a while.
Wow. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Around 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. So we're gonna take this break. A word from our sponsor. Be right back in about 20 seconds or less.
No idea.
SEO? What does it stand for? I don't know. I have no idea.
And we're back, still here with Marshall Simmonds. So, is Q-Tip a better solo MC or in a group?
See, you turned me on to that. I'm going to have to say in a group because they are, you know, you can't just pull out a piece and have it be the whole. You've got to have, it's got to be, they are built on, you know, 3 pillars of love, respect, and good music. And so I think that if you pull one of them out, it's great. And you've always said that Q-Tip has a really good solo career, and I haven't really listened to it enough or given it the time that it deserves. But I feel I miss people when I hear his voice.
No, I agree with that. I feel like Tribe isn't like WuTang, where like Method Man can stand alone. Like Q-Tip, Fife, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, and even what's the other boy name?
Oh my gosh, it's gonna kill me.
Jerobi, who doesn't even do anything, but he's like the soul of the group. So you need all 4 of them to be involved. Otherwise, like you said, it feels like there's something missing.
But see, the thing is with WuTang, and I'm sorry to say it's for all the WuTang fans out there, when they're all solo, they all suck.
That is not true.
They also
that is not true, sir.
I will fight you.
You can't have on the hat that Ghostface made popular and say he sucks by himself.
Bismarck made this popular.
No, he did.
Yes, he did. He made the Coon hat popular. Either way, WuTang solo are not good as Tribe solo. Fife on his stuff, he did a decent album by himself.
I disagree.
When Shaheed did his solo thing with
Lucy Pearl,
whatever. It was different. It was different, but it was okay. When Q-Tip did his solo thing, it was all over the place. He did the Vibrant thing, that record, I forgot the name of the record. Then he did the other record behind that, the Reminisce record. Then he did another one which is singing, which is crazy. So he's good by himself. However, you can tell when he's rhyming, you're rhyming for too long, Q-Tip. Slow it down. We need somebody else to jump in. We need somebody to come have your back.
Right.
You kind of sense it. Right. You kind of sense like, okay, you've been rapping for a minute and 30. Where's Fife go?
Yeah. You know? But I don't feel that way about Wu-Tang. Like, Ghostface can hold a song by himself. Method Man can hold a song by himself.
But can you listen to a whole Ghostface album by
himself? Yes, I can.
I cannot.
I'm so out of my league.
It is okay. It is quite right because I can't respect somebody that has a Wonder Woman band. He has a Wonder Woman band.
Sir, look at your hat. Okay, done there. How do publisher needs differ from brands when it comes to working with agencies?
Well, okay. So with brands or with publishers, there's usually an SEO team that goes around and services all the different properties. And I think that if you centralize SEO, I think it can work. I also think the decentralization model works really well too, and that's why I think that there needs to be an SEO person in every group, on every team, at every level of content creation. And because if it's not, you're not going to get it integrated in the core competency way that it's necessary. So I think that it's, and I'm kind of addressing the question, but I'm sidestepping it a little bit, because with agencies, I feel like agencies will do the work and then hand it over, and then those teams have to either digest it and then they have to act on it. But there needs to be somebody there to translate. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that you have to institutionalize SEO in the individual departments with the team that already exists. So, for example, we usually won't take on a gig that doesn't have somebody there that will take on SEO, that will own SEO, and that will be the disciple, or not the disciple, but that they then turn into the evangelist in the company. That is a really important part of all of this. And then not only that, but you need to have a tech resource that understands SEO dedicated to it, or it's not going to work from an agency perspective, or from a brand perspective, or publishing, or yes. So that would be my answer: is integration and execution at every level, or it just can't be successful.
Okay. So, what are the differences when approaching SEO strategy for a site, pumping out news on fresh URLs within a domain, versus a site with aged URLs?
Well, fresh content, you run the risk. If you have, like the Times produces about 1,500 to 2,500 pieces of content a week. That's a lot. But you run the risk of cannibalizing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How many times can you write about the red carpet? How many times can you write about celebrities? How many times can you write about, what some NBA star is doing, or somebody in the NFL? So you run that risk, and you have to find new ways to be creative. You could only rewrite headlines so much too that don't compete with each other. So I think that that inherently is a problem. Where you have sites with older content, legacy content, I think archives can be leveraged much more often than people realize. We still continue, for a lot of the sites that we work with, we continue to push a lot of content to archives, but they have to be done. Meaning that when new changes come out, like schema changes or even rel author, you got to go back and do some work. It doesn't mean that once it's archived, it's forgotten, because that still has legs, and it won't draw a lot of immediate traffic, but over a period of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's a lot of traffic that you can sell advertisement around, and inventory, of course, is always at a minimum, and that's another way to do it, is to have a team or a person dedicated on Friday afternoons to go leverage some of that old content.
That's a good point. All right, what was the most difficult SEO project at the New York Times to implement?
SEO.
But then you do the six click free or something?
Oh, we did. Okay, so yeah, so we put up a paywall. We put up a couple different paywalls. We did Time Select in 2005. Right when we were coming on, we were given this heaping pile of crap that said, guess what? We need to do SEO, but we're going to put all of our important priority content behind a wall that you have to register for. And the world went crazy about it. And so what we had to do at that point was we came in and we were immediately on our heels. And so what we had to do is basically model out what it would look like if we took the wall down to justify our existence of SEO. It's a really hard, difficult place to be in on day one of your new career. So we did that, and it was a lot of spreadsheets and it was a lot of projections, and it worked. And to the Times' credit, that's a big ship, and to turn and to say, okay, let's take down the wall. And they did it in relatively quick. I think it was up for 18 months. Good, kudos for them for being able to see that and make that strategic decision, because that wasn't easy to do.
All right. So, how do you get writers at big publishers to write for both users and SEO?
By getting them to believe in SEO, and that is through data, through giving them keyword research to identify where their target market really is, to show them that you can't. It's not popular because you're writing about it. It's popular because they want it.
Right.
And if you give them that data to say, you know what, people when they're talking about Shake Shack, I'm saying that because they're right there. What they're looking for are their hot fudge banana milkshake. They're not just looking for their burger, because the burgers suck, right?
I can't plead the fifth.
It used to be okay, but that hot fudge banana milkshake is why people want it. But you give that information back to that writer. That the writers that are compelled by that data are the ones that are going to be successful, and they will continue to come to you, and that it's a symbiotic relationship that works well.
Cool. We got to pay some bills. Back after these messages. And we're back. So, Marshall, which Tribe song do you think would best describe your experience in the SEO world?
I'm going to have to say Problems. Problems.
It's a good choice. Good choice.
You know, there's some high points to that song, and there's some low points to that song. And I think that's probably it. You know, but look, we were talking about this before. With SEO, you have to have levity first, and then SEO second, if you don't keep your perspective about what's going on in this industry. Google moving the goalposts is, okay, everybody can scream about it, you can be pissed about it, but guess what? That's job security, because the client's going to come back to you and say, what do we do now? And they're just going to move the goalposts here, and they're going to offer you schema. They're going to offer you rel author. And yeah, rel author is hard to implement for some clients. But guess what? It gives you something to do, and it gives you new opportunities. And Google's been doing this, and they're going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so in keeping with the idea of experiences, how'd your experiences running search in-house for large brands influence you as you were building Define?
Experience around understanding how each company works. Each company produces content in a very, very different way. And getting your arms around that is essential to understanding what will work and what won't. If you throw a bunch of keyword research data at a publishing team or at a news team, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be your position in the company will be compromised. You won't be the data that you present to them won't be respected or acted upon. But if you find a company in which that works well with, and that is a lot of publishers aren't necessarily metrics driven. They're not metrics driven, and usually inventory and ad sales is separate from editorial teams, and that's okay to understand. We have to operate in between, and it's about finding those pain points of how editorial team works and how product teams work and how they release content. Are they working through Agile? Are they working through a bunch of guys in a dungeon somewhere, and they're just given on a project by project basis? You know, there's so many different ways that tech groups execute too. It's incredibly important to understand that, or nothing will get done. All roads lead through tech. No matter what we say here about editorial teams, all roads are going to lead through tech eventually. And to understand how each technical department works, I think is a path to success. That's a cliche, but it's true.
Okay, so this question comes from Joe Griffin. He says, Marshall, us enterprise marketers have to do a better job at reaching and educating marketing executives about search. Any tips?
I think you have to get into the lower decks. It has to be grassroots, it has to be organic, because if you don't get the people that are producing content, if you don't get their buy-in, it's never going to sell. Now, I understand Joe's question, obviously, is about marketing and the marketing level. And I think that's important too. But ultimately, though, the content creators have to buy in. And that requires a lot of education. One thing that we did at the Times that worked really well was we would do these educational, like we're doing here, these lunch and learns, or we would do an hour training programs where we would just sit people in and just go through a PowerPoint deck. And that taught me a lot about doing PowerPoints, is that people don't want to sit there and listen to you talk at them. People want to see experiences, they want to see failures, they want to see what's successful, what's working, and what's new. And that's what's driven a lot of getting buy-in at upper levels. It only takes one C-level manager to say, we need SEO. And then it's your job to get into the lower decks and build that up, to build up that mind share and market share internally so others get in line. Because then the data will show that it's working. The data will show that it isn't working. And that's how I found the best way to get buy-in with marketing managers. Because you're right, there's a lot that just don't believe. And honestly, that's not something that I'm interested in working on, but sometimes you have to deal with that.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so to that point, why aren't there more SEOs that become CMOs?
What do you think?
I don't know. That's a great question, though.
It is a good question. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's because somebody like you're like, okay, I'm rising through the ranks pretty quickly, or doing my thing, but I'm gonna make a lot more money just starting my own thing rather than staying here and dealing with all these politics. So, but I think for more people to embrace SEO, somebody's gonna have to stick it out and become that CMO.
Yeah. Who is that person?
I keep telling people it's me, but I don't know. Because I want to see SEO grow up. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a few guys out of this new era to stick it out in a big company, work for a big brand, and eventually become that CMO. But enough about me.
I think it's a valid point, though.
How many more years do you see printed newspapers still on the streets of major U.S. cities? And what's stopping them from going purely online now?
I think print's going to be around for a really long time. Look, the Times knows they've done the research. They know that people like the visceral reaction, feeling, day-to-day routine of getting a newspaper, getting something tactile, opening it, and going through it on Sunday. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a generational issue.
But when I was working at Nielsen, I used to work with newspaper clients all the time, and I mean, more so like when I was working there were no tablets at the time, so that wasn't the main factor. The main factor for them was laptops and portable devices, things of that nature. So they were worried about people shying away from the newspapers and just visiting their websites. However, what we found was people in smaller cities like newspapers. They like to get newspapers, they like to get those local newspapers that they can't get that information from a website because it's just a mom and pop city that has like 1,000 people. They could print a newspaper for the 1,000 people and everybody has access to it. It's easy to get and it gives you information on the fly. But bigger cities, younger generations, people pull out their iPhones and view the New York Times on their iPhone or Flipbook or some kind of app that shows them everything they need in one fell swoop instead of having a newspaper. So it's like you said, it's a generational gap, but it's also a geographic gap also.
Yeah, interesting.
Because a lot of people within, and sorry to say, all these flyover states, they're cave people when it comes to media. To be very honest with you, they like physical media. They like they don't like digital stuff. They like to have a CD in their hand. They like to have an album in their hand. They like to have a physical newspaper. I mean, for the most part, that's America on the whole. If you like other cultures like Japan, everything in Japan is digital. It's hard to get something physical in your hand. You come to the U.S., they still sell records in the U.S.
I still buy records.
Exactly. This Mike is the problem.
Or the solution.
But there's people that still buy records. There's still a group of people that want that physical media in their hand and say, you know what? When the zombie apocalypse happens, I could put on my old Kanye West album on a record player and listen to it. And things like that. So people want something physical because at the end of the day, you start thinking about it. How many albums do I own? I don't know. I have to go check iTunes. But a lot of people look at their shelf. They see I have X amount of albums. Because I mean, right now I have a.
First of all, you have a bunch of CDs.
I do have a bunch of CDs. But shut your mouth. But it's a tangible thing. Like I said, people want something in their hand, and the newspaper provides that. I mean, regardless of how anything else may be.
To the idea of records and CDs and stuff, it's like, without having something physical, you don't really have a relationship with that music. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy
That's a good
buying
point.
a CD and like opening it up, looking through the liner notes. Who was the producer on this? Who recorded it? So it's like you have more of a rapport with that music. Whereas like in this digital age, you'll just download everything, give it like the 8-second test, and like, oh, I don't like this.
And it's even people like myself, and I'm sorry to say this, I will scan through an album and download one song. And not download the whole song. So there's people like me that, you know what, this digital age, they're catering to my tendencies of like, okay, I like this one song of an album that's $9. I'm going to only pay 99 cents for that one song. When 5 years ago, I would have had to buy that whole CD, be upset, and have this one song on repeat all day long.
Well, here's the flip side of that. When I first got the De La Soul Stakes Is High record, I had it on tape. The first time I listened to it, I was like, I hate this. But being that like I had to spend $10 on this tape, and it was the only tape I had until like, you know, next time I got paid or something, I had to stick with the record. It's one of my favorite records ever. So we may be like missing out on our like modern day classics because we don't have the attention span for them.
So I think, I mean, like the overarching theme is like browsability, and I think that's a disconnect between the web and like we're talking about here is print and CDs. Is because, you know, if you don't have that CD or if you don't have that magazine, and Wired, I absolutely love Wired magazine, and I love just browsing and seeing like, I didn't know that I was interested in this, and I'm going to read, I even read the advertisements, and I don't read any advertisements, but I read them in Wired because they've got me so dialed that I'm going to read about Crash Plan just because it's there. But it's the same concept with CDs too, is that you're going to browse, and I think that that's still a disconnect between the web and print is how do you make a site easier to browse? And that's a real cheesy way to say it, but that's still true. Is that my phone? That's really loud. I apologize. I did not silence my cell phone.
Let me just say it's a nice ringtone.
We're in a work zone.
Yeah. It was funny. I walked in here and my watch stopped. So there's like this there's like a temporal anomaly in the iAcquire office. I was like, I walked in. I was like, "What time is it? I'm not on. What the hell? It is."
Okay, so What trends will 2013 bring for SEO? Algorithmic wise, big conference topics, etc.
I don't know, man. I hate this question, and the reason why is because I don't care. I want it to be. I want Google News to be better. Let me just say that. Can they give some love to the stepchild that is Google News, and that it could be a great product if they would put some time and effort into it. And those guys work really hard to make it a good resource. And I still feel like it could be something a lot different. I wish Google Reader would still have a little bit of power behind it too. I mean, I still think that there's some opportunity there where Google needs to focus on their core products instead of selling ads. So what we can't do is get mired into the day-to-day traffic analysis, because that'll drive you crazy. That's just a rabbit hole that you can't get into. I mean, you know this from Nielsen, is that you've got to look at it, you got to look at trends, but you can look at rolling 3-month data, because I think that's important to look at, to see when did back to school happen, or when do we know that it starts? When do we know that our demographic goes on vacation? Does it marry closely with the school calendar? Which I see a lot of our traffic trends seem to go with when kids are in and out of school. Summertime definitely plateaus. And then making sure that at least there is growth year over year from summer to summer, because you can still have growth in down months. Yeah. And that's a concept that we like to focus on.
But to touch on your point about, I guess viewership peaking during school months, is because of teachers.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend, shout out to my girlfriend, she's a teacher, and basically some of the things they do is actually read a paper, read the New York Times, read the New York Times, pick an article, current events, something that's related to our class, bring it in and speak about it. So they have to actually go buy a paper.
Yeah.
Outside the norm, normal kids don't buy a paper. And when I was in school, my teacher, he basically told us how to read the New York Times.
Yes.
It's a huge paper.
Yes. You have to know how to read. That's exactly right.
And
no, I agree.
We had a class. He said, okay, this is how you fold it. This is how you read it. This is how you turn the page. And there's this big thing behind it I never knew. And to this day, when I see people on the train reading it, they folded the exact same. You basically read it column by column in a sense.
Yep.
And you have it folded one way, so you hold it in one hand. So you don't have this big chunky paper.
That's right.
You hold it in one hand.
Cool.
So
it's like my grandpa used to do that. You know, and that's great. I think that's a great idea. I mean, and think about how you interact with that medium, because with Wired, I'm coming back to Wired again, and with National Geographic, I read it backwards. So I flip to the back of Wired and I'll look at artifacts found, because it's just kind of a nice non sequitur to look at. But with National Geographic, I flip. And so I always read from backwards to front. And so I just find that I interact with content differently across the board, whether it's a newspaper that you start from the beginning or you go right to sports or whatever. It's different with everything. So that was a tangent, but it's an important tangent.
All right, last question. This comes from John Doherty, actually. He says, how do you prioritize technical errors that Google is telling you about on large news sites? What takes priority? 404s, ignored URLs.
Yeah. Well, let me take a step back and say that what Google tells you is a priority isn't always necessary. They tell you that the most important thing that you can do right now is get the Google News keyword tag and implement it. And yes, we should. But do we take our eye off the ball to execute it across the entire site? No. We can do it on breaking news sections. We can do it on popular sections. We can test it. But just because Google puts out something that's the latest and greatest, what they're looking for is they're testing the waters to determine popularity of that technology. And how many times, and a lot of you guys have done this out there, how many times have you worked your butt off to get something executed and then Google didn't support it?
Way too many.
Right here, I've got the scars to show for that for years and years and years. And some of it is great ideas, great concepts that just weren't supported. You couldn't get the project manager that you were beta testing. It was like, I'm beta testing for Google. Yeah, we're all beta testers for Google. Okay, so you're not in a secret club, and nobody's favored over anybody else, and that's just how it is. Just because you do it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be there. Now, you can take a step back, and if you've been doing this for a long time, or you don't even have to do it for a long time, you can look at some of these and say which ones are going to stick. Rel author is going to stick. Schema is obviously going to stick. There's these things that you can look at and say, yeah, we can put our time and effort behind those projects. You can roadmap it out for 12 months, 24 months, whatever it may need to get site-wide integration that is worthwhile. And you're going to see it, but you better be tracking for it, and you better tell the metrics group to be ready for it when it happens, to quantify these efforts, because in 12 months, somebody's going to say, is this working? And if you don't have the data to show for it, or at least to show that it's working slowly but surely, and we're on a 12-month or a 3-year project plan here, if you don't have that data, they're going to kill the project. Because all tech they want to know, how long is it going to take, how much is it going to cost, and what kind of traffic are we going to get from it? And you have to know those answers to the question at any point in time, and that is going to change, and it's going to evolve. And you have to be able to support that data, because Google's going to put something out there, and you may rush to get to it, and then they don't support it, and that doesn't work, and then what?
Wow. This
is great.
Incredibly
informative. With good food and good entertainment and good questions.
So we're wrapping up for this week. See you next time on lunch break. Thank you very much, Marshall.
Good to be here.
Thank you to
It was a pleasure. I'll be in your home city cooking.
I'm really digging that idea.
I'll bring the mangoes.
Oh, man, that's a great idea.
So see you guys next week.
Thanks.